Don, iconic black actor John Amos died back in August? Alright, you white motherfuckers, all eyes on me. This is the I Refuse podcast. I gotta speak on it. This is Miss Foxy I Refuse podcast. I took my time coming to y'all because I, like so many of you, are still reeling and in shock. The iconic black actor John Amos has passed away. The news broke recently. Had us thinking, oh shit, he died the last day of September. Oh shit, he died not too long after James Earl Jones, whom the connection between the two men, aside from a very long, iconic story career, they were both in Coming to America. A lot of people were like, oh, I just gotta watch Coming to America. I just gotta watch it. I gotta watch it. Then, come to find out that he actually died back in August 21st to be exact. And like so many of us, his daughter came forward with her own video explaining some things, how she found out about her father's death just like everybody else's, and she feels some kind of way, as she should. So it got me to thinking, right? So for those of you that have been living under a rock, living in Amish country without internet service, John Amos, what a career, right? So the first thing that comes to mind for a lot of us when we say the name John Amos is Good Times. One of my all-time favorite TV shows to watch. Another iconic credit, aside from Good Times, he was Adult Kunta Kinte in Roots. On top of that, he was also on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, I believe, as the weatherman. He also was in the second Die Hard movie. He did, later in his life, he did a few television spots. He was Tommy's father on Martin. He was on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air as Nia Long's character, Lisa's character's father. Just amazing, iconic moments, right? When you think of great TV sitcom dads and you think of an actor that fights hard for positive African American representation on television, he's at the very top of the list. You know, John Amos, like James Avery, great TV sitcom dads like Reginald Vel Johnson, Carl Winslow, great TV sitcom dads who unfortunately fell into the politics and the system of television and movies and media. You know, what drives numbers is slapstick. What drives numbers isn't so much the heavy, adult, serious stuff. We don't want to get too preachy. And unfortunately, in John Amos's case, when he was on Good Times, he, like Esther Roll, took issue with the JJ character overpowering and taking away from what they deemed was the core of, or the goal of of their vision. It started off season 1 not as noticeable, but by season 2 they started to slip in more lines for JJ. And nothing against Jimmy Walker. Great comedic talent, great comedic actor. Never seen him do stand up. I mean, if I pull up Netflix right now, you're not going to see a Jimmy Walker stand up. But, on top of that, Jimmy Walker came to work prepared, memorized his lines, and nailed his moments. And he couldn't help but bring the JJ character to life. And, the producers recognized that, the writers recognized it, hence, he was getting more lines over the course of the show and more screen time. And ultimately, I think the nail in the coffin in their eyes was the dynamite catchphrase. And John Amos tried to hang in there as best he could. And then everybody remembers when season 4 of Good Times came on, he was killed off. Esther Roll tried to hang in there for a while. She left after concluding season 4. She had some stark differences as to the direction of the show. First, you kill off the father. The JJ character is somewhat responsible, but irresponsible. Now he's into gambling. And I think the nail in the coffin for her, as far as her character was concerned, was that Florida would have never taken up with another man so soon after her husband's passing. Then on top of that, Carl is an atheist. Florida is starkly religious, deeply religious into the Christian Protestant faith. It's just too much going on. So come to find out that John Amos has come out a couple of times and said that he got the call that his contract was not going to be renewed. Apparently, behind the scenes, they say that John Amos was getting into it with the writers and the producers. The point is, John Amos believed in principles, believed in morals, believed in positive African American representation in imagery, television, movies, and being accurate as possible. I totally respect somebody for that. Look, I have my beliefs and my principles and my vision. It was foolish at the time for them to kill off the father. Because you got to think about it. Good Times was the very first African American family of television. This is before Family Matters. This is before Sanford and Son. This is before the Jeffersons, if you want to consider that a family somewhat. This is before Amen. Before Good Times, I think the last African American sitcom that made it was Julia, I think. And I think that played a role in his stance in making sure that we just steer clear of stereotypes, of buffoonery, of shucking and jiving on TV. You got Why Is My Grown Ass Son, dancing around in this chicken hat. And if you look closely in some of the episodes in those earlier seasons, like especially season 2, you could see, I think some of John Amos's reactions was sincere in that moment, where he rolls his eyes or His body language is like, oh, here we go. If you look real closely at Good Times, seasons 2 and season 3, season 3 probably one of the best seasons of the show. You can tell, but John Amos, man, what a career! I watched Roots recently. I binge watched it a couple of months ago. First time I'd ever seen it in its entirety. Growing up, they've only talked about it in like documentaries or Eyes on the Prize. I know I'm dating myself. Eyes on the Prize. For those of us that were PBS kids, coming up in the '90s, it was mentioned in retrospect, right? I sat down one day, opened up my Roots box set, the first box set, because it was another one called New Age or something. But I sat down and watched. I was like, damn, this is really, really good. And as factual as possible. When it comes to a person's experience, it's always factual, right? But John Amos was in Roots and ate it up. Him and Madge Sinclair, who was also in Coming to America, who played Kizzy's parents. So, everybody, when they say Roots, they think of LeVar Burton, as they should. But I believe adult Kunta Kinte had more screen time. His scenes, man, were amazing. And of course, the iconic having his foot cut off. What a career, though, But when I thought of this news, part of my grief had turned into anger because for a while, even when he was alive, maybe the last year or so, there was mention of or accusations of elder abuse. And I'm like, that's kind of strange because a while back, when I first started using TikTok, John Amos was on TikTok with his son TK, literally copy and paste of John Amos's face on a light-skinned person. That they look exactly alike. And no disrespect to his daughter, when she has her hair pulled back, she looks just like him. But anyway, TikTok, it was John Amos and his son doing little dances on the chair, and he looks to be coherent. It doesn't look like a hostage situation. It doesn't look like he's being forced to do it. But John Amos wasn't talking a whole lot. In every video that I saw, it was mostly his son doing a lot of the talking. Then at some point after that, I saw a video that was a little troubling. There is a clip circulating, and somebody in the comments will probably find it, where John Amos and his son, TC, whatever his name is, are in the back seat of a vehicle with the windows rolled down, and it looks like they're in the cul-de-sac or the entryway of the hospital. And there seems to be a couple of people from the hospital outside the window. TK is recording, and he is pushing back against what I believe is an undiplomatic situation with the hospital staff. That he's going over and over again. There is nothing wrong. He is not in danger. Things of that nature, right? And John Amos is in the middle of these two parties going back and forth. And he's telling his son repeatedly, stop it, stop talking, stop it, stop talking, yada, 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 yada. And it was around that time that I heard about the allegations of elder abuse. And I was like, what? Allegations of elder abuse, exploitation of finances. And it sucks, right? Because I wasn't aware of the daughter until recently. I knew that John Amos had kids, but for most of my life, I had never seen him until I went on TikTok and saw, oh, he has a son. And you don't need Maury for this one. And then, recently I saw the daughter and she said her piece, and I was like, I think I know where this is coming from. The daughter, my theory is that the daughter of John Amos, who's come out recently and had a lot to say, is the one that's been lodging the allegations against the son. And it sucks, right? Because, like I say, these allegations have been around for a while, even when John Amos was alive. And while there isn't much being said, like there hasn't been anything that's come out, a smoking gun, so to speak, that is the case, all I know is that in the videos, he didn't look like he was being abused. He didn't look like he was being terrorized. He didn't give off that he was being abused. And John Amos, to my recollection, is no tiny dude. He's been a really athletic, strong looking dude. And the last year or so of his life that I was on TikTok, he didn't look like he was malnourished or he wasn't being looked after. I'm not in those people's business, but it makes me wonder why this? Is it over control? And then it makes me think, are the brother and sister step or half brother and sister? I never quite understood why there's so much drama and so much argument over an elderly person, especially around their passing, the funeral, the viewing, so on and so forth. So for the sister to come to us in the group chat and say she's finding out just like everybody else that her father passed away via social media, and that she is verbally saying these things that have been alleged. It's not looking good on TCTK. It is not looking good for you, brother. I wouldn't put it past the sister and the other family members, if there are other family members, that they will lodge an investigation against this dude. Because it's so incredibly selfish. And this is coming from somebody that's had a loved one pass away. My husband passed away 8 or 9 years ago. It is so incredibly selfish to proceed with passing, viewing, or passing, embalm, or cremate, that whole thing, without notifying the rest of the family, particularly other siblings. John Amos, they say, was cremated within days of his passing, which, I'm no Robert Stack. I'm not even the narrator on Forensic Files. But that's very, very fishy. That's a major red flag. Why no viewing? Why such a rush to cremate somebody? That only fans the flames of the allegations is that were elder abuse and financial exploitation. Now, I don't know what TCTK light skinned son does. I don't know what the daughter does. But why was he cremated so fast? And then, and then, what? What the hell is going on? How did it get to this point? You know, when I think of the handling of an elderly person in the later stages of their life, it makes me sad, right? When I think of how John Amos was handled in his passing, in his death, and the rush to cremate him. And there's throughout this whole thing, this cloud of allegations. Now, the daughter didn't specifically name the son, but for those of us that have been outside for a while, we know who she's talking about. It makes me, when I think of how this was done, I go back to how another sitcom actor, brilliant comedic talent, um, established Broadway actor, Sherman Hemsley. So back in 2011, 2012, Sherman Hemsley didn't have like close family. He was living, and this came out after the fact. He had died, I think, somewhere in the Southwest of something, and he literally, his body was laying, I think, on ice somewhere for a while until his business wasn't ordered. And the closest person to him, see, this is why it's important to have your last will and testament, facilitate and name a administrator of your estate, somebody that you can confide in, that's been close to you, that you trust. Or else you're going to end up like Sherman Hemsley, where the last known person isn't a spouse, probably a longtime friend in the house. I don't know. It was a whole mess. But it's such a shame. Like when you think of John Amos, Sherman Hemsley, and other folks who are of a particular age, and they pass, that leading up to and even after, it's just giving mishandlement, and it's like to me is a reflection of you didn't really care about this person, and it's so easy for those of us that are outside getting on TikTok and watching him and his son looking all cute and looking all fun and looking all, happy and stuff. Which, now that I think about it, kind of came out of nowhere. Like I say, I'm no Robert Stack. The TikToks did come out of nowhere. But it's so easy for us to think, oh, he looks good, looks well and happy. It's great to see that we still have our one of our favorite TV dads out here, just whatever. But now that I've said all that stuff in front of y'all, I wouldn't be surprised if was that Law and Crime YouTube channel, which is so good, covers this. I know the big thing right now is the Diddy thing, which This motherfucker keeps pushing for bail and keeps getting denied. Like, motherfucker, read the room. Yeah, it's just something that's not curling all the way around for me when it comes to John Amos. It's the more I think about it, the sadder it is. Like, here you have a man that's had a long, storied career in life of impact and influence on a lot of people that look like me. And the end of his life is handled like this. And dare I say it, who knows how many years in the last of his years he possibly was not he was just not he just was not handled right. And it's shitty because if I'm in my 80s, knock on wood, I make it that far, I would want to be around my family more. Why is he just around you? And where did this disagreement and argument come from? Why are other family members calling up to the hospital and the hospital is receiving these allegations and this stuff about you? Like, they are literally in the parking lot being asked all these questions. Because usually when a hospital, you pretty much have like a screening and like close-out procedures to do before they let you go. So if it was nothing alarming, why would a hospital hold you up in the parking lot? And why are you getting so irate? I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I think the sun did something to him. At this point in the pandemic more, I don't put anything past anybody. Like, I don't think people are above anything. Like, is it not enough that the government gives you money for being a caretaker? Is it not enough that the government gives you money for having your father as a beneficiary? I'm just theorizing. As somebody that has taken care of a parent, I benefited greatly from that. Not aside, the biggest thing is spending time with my mom. And making sure she is comfortable and I can go get what she needs and stuff like that. Like, we really had a really good, I'm saying had, she's still alive. She's still alive. Alive and well, has her own place, it's out of people's hairs, out of people's business. And she's essentially a shut-in. Love that for her. Um, but I would have never imagined. Like, what the hell was going on over there? What what's going on over there? You know, it's such a it's a terrible way to go out. Like if it turns out to be what I'm theorizing, I cannot. I couldn't imagine. Like, was it worth it? If it was the case, was it worth it? Like your own daddy? Man, it's just very sad all around. Like, what is it about death and passing that brings anger and bitterness and territoriality and possessiveness and arrogance out of family members? And why aren't more family members fighting for family members to be around the family? Like, what the hell's going on over there that, you know, people are saying this about the son, and the daughter talking about not only did she find out when we did about our father's passing, she hadn't seen him in 45 days. Girl, it's such a shame. It's like, you know, aside from, you know, John Amos passing, this other stuff around it, I wouldn't be surprised. It's one of the saddest things when you think about it. And there's probably going to be more drama to come. Between the siblings. I don't know if they had the same mom or their steps or halves. And maybe that's part of it. Because here's the thing. Like, when you think about it, right? When you think of situations like this where there's this contention, this animosity, this drama is playing on social media now. Do you think it's like I'm asking you, the audience, you in there, do you think it's a it's a jealousy thing or an envy thing? Not saying that John Amos was an absentee father, um, because I can't think of a situation like this occurring between siblings that were raised together, that were involved with their father all their lives. Unless TC's crazy as fuck and was pulling a move out of spite and pettiness. What what do the grown ass kids do? And I'm talking to y'all as this is coming to me. What does anybody know what the kids do? John Amos's kids? Nevertheless, very, very sad. Rest in peace to John Amos. Rest in peace to James Earl Jones. Rest in peace to Mutombo. Rest in peace to a baseball player who died at like 82, 83. Oh man. Y'all stay up, y'all stay together. And we will see you later. This is Mr. Fox, the I Refuse podcast. If some stuff starts to come out regarding John Amos's son, and the drama continues, I will be back. I really hope it's not elder abuse. I really hope the son didn't play a part in his father's death. Because normally, when there's a quick cremation, the first thought that would come to a lot of people's minds is poisoning. Like rat poison, the poison that they use when gardening. Oh, I can't think of it. But something like that you can pick up from a Home Depot or a Lowe's. Or something like, something that wouldn't be picked up in a autopsy. Something that would not, that you don't want to get picked up in the blood work of the autopsy. So you just cremate motherfuckers. It's crazy. Very, very crazy. Just saying. Miss Fox, I Refuse podcast. Season 6 is available everywhere. New episodes every Monday. Usual suspects, we record usually once a month. We've been giving y'all a lot of content on that podcast. I Refuse podcast after dark. So we will catch you guys later. This is Mr. Fox. Follow, subscribe wherever you see us. Twitter at I Refuse Podcast. The YouTube channel where this video is. And the Instagram at I Refuse Podcast _ between the words. We will catch you guys later. Fendi, like the bag. This is the I Refuse